It was good, y'all. It's your boy JD6 here. I'm with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man.
Welcome back into another episode of the KC Sports Authority podcast. We have quite a few coming to you this week because there's just a ton to get into. Haven't had any Chiefs talk in a couple days, so Chris and CJ here with me. Guys, how are we doing?
Hollywood.
Lights, camera, action, right? So a lot of fun stuff to get into, but before we talk Chiefs, just as a reminder here on the podcast, you can find us on Spotify. Listen to us there. You can hit that like and subscribe, follow button over there. If you're watching here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button for us right there on the screen. We've picked up a couple more subscribers the last couple of days, looking to get to 500 here over the next few weeks. So that would greatly help us out if you hit that subscribe button. If you like the show and you like what you watch and check out with us, go ahead and do that. You can also hit us up on any of our social medias, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at KCSA Pod. And then I have mentioned it twice. It's been all over our socials. We've got our second annual bracket challenge coming to you here in a couple days with Selection Sunday just hours away by the time this posts. One winner this year, $100 Rally House gift card, $100 to use on whatever you want. That will be going to the winner of the bracket challenge. It is free to enter. It is over on ncaa.com. We'll have links all over our social media accounts. It'll be in the comment section here below on this episode. So go check that out. We will also be doing weekly prize giveaways every weekend of the tournament. So 3 weekends of giveaways. That will all be done through our social media. So you want to make sure you're following us there. Again, $100 Rally House gift card to the winner. Free to play. Once you log in and set up your bracket, make sure you go back in and actually make your picks after Selection Sunday. But get that done and you can share it with whomever. Would love to see over 200 entries this season. All right, fellas, Chiefs talk. It has been a week of the new fiscal NFL year, and I mean the Chiefs might be having the perfect off season. What are your guys' thoughts so far on the first 7 days?
It's kind of about as perfect as you can ask for. Like you keep the guys that you want. You bring in a receiver that we'll get into that I wasn't super high on, but the contract makes it almost impossible to dislike the deal. 1 year, $7 million base, regardless how you feel about Hollywood Brown. And then, you wanted Drew Tranquill back. You wanted Nadi and Turk so that D-line showed up. You start with Chris Jones, like the biggest free agent acquisition any team could get. You kept him. So, I have no notes. No notes on the Chiefs right now. They're doing everything perfect, and they still have some wiggle room. Obviously, we'll be watching to see what happens with Snead, but, if the worst case scenario with Snead is you have one of the best corners playing on your team next year, that ain't too bad of a place to be in.
I think it's funny. Last week, Chris, you and I were sitting here when we were talking about the Snead franchise tag. We were kind of feeling less optimistic that both him or Jones would be back. At that point, it seemed like, man, this is coming down to the wire. If Chris Jones hits free agency money, there's just no way we sign him. And here we are a week later looking like fools because Chris Jones signed a fat contract that's going to lock him up here, hopefully for the rest of his career, and hopefully that production level still hits. And we still have Snead on the roster, and we still have $6 million in salary cap without any other restructures. The only one that's been done so far is the Patrick Mahomes restructure, and there's still 2 or 3 other guys that could. So there's still a lot of stuff coming. But CJ, I got to ask you this. Which is your, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to rank these 1, 2, 3. Chris Jones re-signing, Dave Merritt not leaving, Spags extension.
Chris signing is definitely number 1. Spags extension 2, then probably Dave Merritt 3.
How worried were you when you saw that headline come across, Dave Merritt interviewing for 49ers defensive coordinator?
Not really too much because, I know some people who work in the building, and obviously, his son plays school in Kansas City. So people that are pretty close to his circle have told us, he doesn't want to leave the city until, his son's done with school, obviously. So his son is still in high school and still playing ball. So
who's also gotten a lot of offers the last couple of weeks. I've been seeing his name pop up on a lot of recruiting tracks.
Shout out Lil Mary. He's getting coached up right. He ain't got no choice but to be great. So no, I was like, I had a feeling he would stay just because of the things I've heard. But no, he definitely deserved the opportunity to be somewhat defensive coordinator because when you have great coaches who develop good players for so long, eventually teams are going to start poaching at you and start trying to get people in their building. Especially, and it's ironic it would be the Niners.
Yeah. Shout out 49ers. If you can't beat them, steal from them, or at least try to. And they went after Spags too.
So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. These guys been doing their job the last 3 years, and they had their best season as far as defensive play calling and development this year by far since they've been here in Kansas City. So no, it makes sense for those guys to get the job offers, and I'm glad they're still here and try to go make more history in Kansas City. So I'm glad the guys stayed for selfish reasons, but if they ever do decide to leave, they absolutely deserve it for sure.
Yeah. Let's stick with defense for a moment. Basically, as of now, we're essentially running it back. Yes, there's still a couple guys out there. Mike Edwards that still hasn't re-signed yet. Maybe that's coming. Mike Dana is probably going to get a bigger contract elsewhere, but he could still re-sign. Obviously, Willie Gay goes and signs the one-year deal with the Saints, but pretty much running the same group back. The defensive line is almost identical outside of Dana, and you know they're probably going to add at least one more piece. I think we would all feel very good. Like if we went back 3 weeks ago and said, hey, we're basically going to re-sign every pending free agent on defense, depending on what happens with Snead here still and if he stays or if he's traded. Do you guys feel pretty good with the group that they've retained moving forward, or is there any other guys you're like, I rather would have seen an upgrade over the guy that we re-signed?
No, it's perfect because look, they signed everyone back except for they haven't brought Mike Edwards back, which they still may. But Connor played great down the stretch, so he could still be that third safety with Cook going to be healthy. Dana is not there, but you're hoping that Felix brings more in his second year, and Willie Gay didn't come back, but Leo Chenal really took a step. So every position that you haven't re-signed yet, you had a young guy who really excelled, or Felix didn't, but he was still a first-round pick. You get what I'm saying? There's depth behind with a young guy that you'd like to take that role. So the defense is looks to be the same essentially as the next year, which is pretty exciting. I'd still like maybe a depth safety, maybe a depth D lineman since Menahue's going to be out for a little bit, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with where the defense stands.
No, absolutely. Once you bring Chris Jones back, that's kind of the biggest domino. After that, I really didn't care who we brought back at that point. As long as 9-5 is back, the rest we can figure out whether it be via draft. Because as of today, we have 6 picks. Well, it'll be 7 with the comp pick we'll get for Willie Gay signing in New Orleans. So if the rumors of the Snead deal does get done, whether it be 1 pick or 2 picks, we could go into the draft into Detroit having 8 or 9 picks. So if we have to add a couple linebackers in the draft, like Chris said, or if we have to add a safety for depth, I think we could very well. Especially when it comes to DBs, Veach has been almost Teflon when it comes to picking that position, whether it be picking guys early with Trent McDuffie or late like L'Jarius Sneed. It really doesn't matter where he picks them. He finds good guys, and you let Dave Merritt and Spags get their hands on them, they're probably going to turn into all-pro or even Pro Bowl caliber players. So from Charvarius Ward to Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed, Josh Williams, Jalen Watson expect to take a big jump this year as well, but they're going to get a lot more snaps. So if we have to take a DB and we lose Snead, I think I'll be very comfortable. And there's a lot of safeties out there that we could get in the draft that I like, and I'll probably drop a couple more mocks, even though I've got everybody's seen 50 million mocks. There's probably no more you can do. But
it's too early for mock season for me. I don't like to do it till it's a month out.
But then they start asking questions. Well, who do you like? I'm like, well, I got a couple. There's at least 3 or 4 safeties I really love, and there's 3 linebackers that I liked it, and all these guys are available on day 2 and day 3. So nobody you have to reach for. So
which is where Veach typically does his best work.
Exactly. So,
those guys that might get overlooked by other franchises comes in, has the right system, and then they become, your 4th-round corner, L'Jarius Sneed. That's the most coveted cornerback on the market right now.
Right. Exactly. So obviously, as long as we got the big names back, and it was funny. I made a scenario on my other show. If Chris and Sneed were both back, I had no idea this was going to happen. I was the least likely one. I thought we all were saying either Chris or Sneed leaves. So I did mine as a third option. I'm like, I guess I could do an episode on if they'll both come back. And I thought I was lying to myself. I'm like, there's no way they both come back.
Yeah, just the money felt like it was going to be too unrealistic. And then we see Chris Jones cap it, which again, salary cap is a complete myth. Nobody understands how it works. I don't care if they say they're the expert or not. $7 million cap it this year. Now that's obviously going to be gigantic down the road, but the salary cap's going to keep going up. So it shouldn't hurt too bad. But $7 million, I couldn't even begin to explain to you how they made that work, but they left a lot of money on the table for this year so they could still fill out the rest of the roster. And then Patrick Mahomes clearing up $21 million. So basically you got $28 million in, about $35 million if you really add the numbers up, that between Mahomes and Chris Jones created this year to go out and do more stuff. And they, like I said, they still got $6 million. So I feel pretty good with where we're sitting here now. Getting that Chris Jones deal done early as quick as it was. Now I feel like we can just kind of sit back here, let all these other teams go blow all their cap space, and there's still there's a long list of pretty solid free agents at multiple positions that you don't feel like you have to jump on now. Yes, everybody wanted the high end receiver early. We saw Calvin Ridley go for a fat contract that there's no way we were going to do. Mike Evans, big contract, definitely we're going to do. We get Hollywood Brown, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But now we're at this position where we still got cap space, where a lot of other teams are running out because they've already made their big moves, and the Chiefs really aren't desperate out at any position to have to go do something now. Getting Chris Jones back and doing some of these other smaller signings. Drew Tranquil re-signing's huge. That might be one of their other biggest signings so far with what he was able to do last year and what he's capable of doing. And now, he's kind of becoming the Chiefs' new insider as far as going out and getting other free agents. He's beating the drum of come play to Kansas City. But yeah, you feel pretty good at this spot here. Now that the Chiefs can just kind of sit back, wait for everyone else to do their thing, and they'll still have a long list of guys to kind of pick through and talk to fill out some of the other pieces ahead of the draft, which of course still got 5, 6 to 7 players they'll add to that process and undrafted free agents. Before we jump into the offensive side, anything else on the defense you guys still feel like we need to address or go after other than the depth, safety, rotational D end?
Nothing really.
No, I think it's solid across. I mean, again, if Snead gets traded, take another corner. But even then, like I said, when we were talking about him moving, like if you went into the season with Josh and Jalen as your 2-3, are you going to be real mad about that? No. So I have nothing on the defensive side.
And it's still, I still think it's really likely they will add another veteran corner at some point in the offseason. They, a lot of the higher end guys have gone, but there's still plenty of guys that are unsigned. Some of the guys that are a little bit aging but got cap release, like these Xavier Howard, J.C. Jackson, Stephon Gilmore, Dory Jackson. But there's so many guys there in the cornerback room. Even if I'm scrolling through like 30 deep, and there's still a couple guys on here that I wouldn't mind tossing a small contract at. So yeah, it just feels nice that they can sit here now and relax and breathe and go, hey, we're in a good position. We're going to wait for the right guy at the right time to add into this mix. So there's no, I guess, real concern that, man, we really missed on going after that guy. So yes, that feels good. But let's jump to the offensive side. Obviously, we know the woes of the receiver room last year were not fun to watch. It was a struggle all year. Yes, they finally showed up when it mattered most at the end, which at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. At the end of the day, it's all about winning Super Bowls. But you knew Andy Reid and Veach were not going to go into another season without adding some playmaking options across the offense there to just enhance this group. Saw a lot of wide receivers go out and get big money. Again, Calvin Ridley, 4 for $92. Darnell Mooney, one name a lot of Chiefs fans want and one we've talked about before, gets 3 for $39. Probably a little outside of what Chiefs were comfortable spending. We know they definitely had conversations. I'm guessing they lowballed him. Not significantly, but not close enough to be in the conversation there. Gabe Davis, another one people liked, same kind of contract, 3 for $39. And then Curtis Samuel, the one, Chris, you've talked a lot about being the perfect kind of Andy Reid guy. Pretty sure they still had conversations, but he goes out and gets 3 for 24, which I actually thought wasn't too bad. It could be, basically 3 for 30, so 10, 11 million a year. Probably we're in that range. I don't know if you want to spend 11 million on a guy that you're not certain's going to be one of the top 2 receivers, just the way he plays. He could be, but a guy that they might use around the field. But they end up getting Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, another guy that's been linked to the Chiefs for several years when he was unhappy in Baltimore. Everyone felt that he'd be the quickest, easiest Tyreek Hill replacement of speed and down the field threat. Didn't really have a great last 2 years with the Cardinals, although he's had a lot of quarterback issues there and a team that just didn't really have a great offense. So statistically, he doesn't look like he's been that good. He's been hurt here and there. But it seems like all of Chiefs Kingdom's pretty excited to have Hollywood Brown. CJ, I know on your other show, you've got a couple guys that were not too thrilled about this signing, that aren't huge fans of Hollywood Brown. But what is your take on this addition?
No, Hollywood Brown fits our system. And I think most of the guys you mentioned, like Darnell Mooney, Curtis Samuel, Gabe Davis, all of those guys could fit a role into this offense if Andy and obviously Veach decided to sign them. But obviously, like Chris said, it's going to come down to the guy that we could get for the best value. And you can't really be mad at Hollywood Brown for $7 million. Because if you'd have told me that 3 or 4 days ago, I wouldn't believe you, because I was telling everyone he's not signing here for like a 1-year prove-it deal. Just because other guys that are in his age group or in his like class range or talent-wise are getting 30, 39, 40 M. So why wouldn't he take a 2 for 25 from Tennessee, or if he got a 3 or 30 from Carolina or New York, teams that need receivers really bad, or even if you decide to resign in Arizona for a team-friendly deal. There's plenty of teams who needed receiver help. So the fact that you've got Hollywood Brown, a guy who can play the Z, who can play the slot, who's been in multiple offenses, he's 26, so he's still young, has a lot of juice left in the tank. A guy who can make plays. Obviously, he hasn't played with the best quarterbacks, obviously. He's struggled at times when he had a young Lamar. Colin Murray was in and out the lineup with injuries, and he finally got him for a little bit towards the end of the season, but then he was missing games as well with his injury. So Hollywood Brown is a perfect receiver for this offense, a guy you can ask to come in. He can play Z, he can play slot, he can play both sides of the ball if need be. Obviously, you can use him in different ways because he can run intermediate routes, he can do deep routes. There's really nothing you can't really ask him to do. Obviously, he has his flaws. He's no perfect receiver by any means. Hands may be inconsistent at times, and definitely finishing through contact is things he can improve on. But from what you had last year, and Keegan said, this is a major improvement because this receiver group was the worst in the National Football League last year. So it's a major improvement. I love it. I love the value. And one thing I was telling all my friends, we're going to get the best year of Hollywood Brown because he's playing for another contract year. And the
He's motivated.
So so you got 1 year deal.
Yeah, he's in a position to win a Super Bowl, so why not go out there and perform?
Exactly. He's going to be better naturally because you're playing with Mahomes and Andy. But on top of the fact you're highly motivated, you want to play well and get more money, it just matches well. He's going to play hard. We're going to put him in good positions. So a contract year with a motivated player is undefeated. So it's better for us. So I love the deal. It makes complete sense for both sides. And if he plays well, we could sign him to a 2-3 year deal because he'll be, 28, 29 at that point. So still be under 30. So it really checks all the boxes. I still can't believe Veach did it, bro. Like Chris and Hollywood for $7 million a piece on the cap.
$14 million between those two guys.
That didn't make sense. Nobody would have believed that. We just said,
or you could go do $23 million for Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, see, it makes sense, bro. I don't know what Veach said to him on the phone, or Andy must have sent him a text and said, "Hey, you want to win?" And because most guys take the money first. They are not team friendly guys. I want to win, but
have we seen what the incentives are yet to get him up to 11 million? I don't think I've seen those.
I haven't seen the details yet.
But yeah, it could earn 11 million. But yeah, Chris, what's your take on this signing and how he fits in with Kelsey and Rice?
Yeah, I was a lot like your boy Country, where I did not want Hollywood Brown on this team because I thought he was going to be too expensive, and I kind of thought he was overrated for what I thought he was going to get. When I saw Mooney's contract, I was like, oh, that's 13 mil a year. Like he's probably going to get more than that. Like I don't need Hollywood. I don't need an upgraded McCole Hardman for 15 mil a year.
Absolutely, I agree.
Like, and so like that's why I was so against it, but. At this deal, like if you're still mad at this deal, you're just a hater. Like as Taylor used to say, like there ain't no such thing as a bad 1 year deal. So he's gonna be motivated. It almost makes me feel like the Chiefs. You know, we always talk about the Mahomes. What is it? The Mahomes cut or whatever, where you get people want to come and play with Mahomes, and I haven't really seen that. This may be the first example of. Maybe there were a couple teams out there that were going to give it that Hollywood Brown a similar deal to a Mooney or a Sam, 3 for 30, 3 for 40, maybe been floating out there, but Marquise wants that next level and decided that, hey, I'm still 26. The Chiefs are offering me where I could still probably make 11 mil this year, or at least get up to that. Let's take a year, prove it, and next year I'm signing 3 for 50 or, whatever the case may be. And so he's betting on himself. Yeah, betting on himself to where he probably won't be in Kansas City past this year unless he has like that's very, the only reason that I think he'd be in Kansas City is it was very middle of the pack. Like we're talking like 450 to 550 yards, a couple touchdowns, and the market's very similar next year.
I think we'd be very disappointed if that's his stat line.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that like that's the only way that he stays in Kansas. That the Kansas City Chiefs bring him back is to where if he was productive but not a star.
Yeah.
And so I still think, I know we're gonna get into what they should do. I still think they need to draft a receiver because then you have Rice in year 2, take a rookie receiver in the first or second round. And then Hollywood Brown kind of is the gap as those two catch up. And then you let Brown go, and you've got these two guys for a couple years on the outside, hopefully. Like that would –
everybody wins.
That would be nice. That would be a perfect world. Now, if you draft another Sky Moore type, and then we're back to square one, but at least they got the Rice part right so far. So we'll see how that
Yeah, and I was looking at the 2025 wide receiver class of guys that could get paid next year, and I wonder if some of that too played a factor with, all right, the guys in this class, it wasn't the, which sounds weird because maybe he could have got more money. This wasn't, the prettiest free agency wide receiver class. Next year, there's quite a few guys that need to get paid. So maybe some of it too is, hey, if I can put together a good season, good bounce back season here, and go into the offseason with 5 or 6 receivers that are going to get paid, maybe that just increases the likelihood that teams are going to throw a multi-year deal at me because the best guys are getting paid. And so maybe, hey, if I can put myself back in that class, that could help out. But I don't know. You got a couple guys next year that are gonna get the bag, they're eligible, and then there's a deep wide receiver class of free agents next year. So I know that sounds backwards. There's more to pick from, but maybe he could get a better contract because the market's going to be more consistent.
Exactly. He doesn't have to have a great season to get paid. That's the crazy part. Like, if he comes in and has 700-800 yards, he could get a nice 2-3 year deal from somebody. If he exceeds that and gets 1,000, which I don't think he will, because I know Trav, the pecking order should go Trav, Rasheed, then Hollywood as far as targets. Like, Trav gets his normal. Maybe Trav takes a step back and only gets 80 plus targets instead of 100. Then maybe Rasheed gets a bump up and gets like 90 or 100. But as long as Marquise falls in that third role and gets like 700 or 800 yards, he can easily get another contract. He doesn't have to have nothing crazy. 400 or 500 would be on the low end for me. 1,000 would be a great year, but if he gets like 700 or 800, that's a perfect year. Honestly, that's not asking for a lot. Because that's what Juju got. Juju got like 900, so I didn't think he was going to do that because he's way more explosive.
Yeah, and he would have done more. I think he missed 2 regular season games with that knee
concussion. Yeah,
the concussion and the knee. So if Hollywood plays all 17, I don't think there's no reason why you can't end with like 900 yards for sure. Especially playing next to Rasheed and Trav.
How about the fit? What does Hollywood Brown bring to this team that we either don't have, or what kind of level can he take this offensive group with how it stands? We know there's probably still going to be another move or two on offense. But like I said, Travis Kelce's probably still number 1. I'm of the opinion that I think Hollywood Brown takes a lot of pressure off Travis earlier in the season. Travis, last year we saw he kind of faded for a 5-6 game stretch. Some of that could have been him being tired, a little banged up. Some of it just the offense wasn't clicking. But what do you guys think the addition of Hollywood Brown does in the bigger picture of this offense and the dynamic it can provide?
It gives Rice and Travis more room to operate underneath. Like, you actually have someone you have to run with deep. Like, and also it has someone to where, let's be real. You see McCole Hardman run out on the field, something shifty's probably coming when that happened. Now you have Hollywood Brown, who you could run those same plays with without having to make an obvious substitution. He could still run his normal route tree.
Yeah.
And you can run the jet sweeps and the bubble screens and all these things that you like to do for McCole without having an obvious substitution coming on the field. Be like, oh, hey, watch this, and this because 12 is on the field.
For one play. Yeah.
Yeah. 12. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I like that aspect a lot too, to where he can be really productive without getting the numbers, as long as safeties are coming over the top, and that just opens that underneath for where Kelce's the greatest ever at, and Rice really, really started to have a strong understanding of late in the season last year.
No, absolutely. He does everything you need a deep threat to do as far as like Miko or MVS, but he's a better route runner than both of them. Mm-hmm. And I know he has his inconsistencies at times, but I'll take the learning curve he's going to have to come in, because it should be shorter for him because he's a veteran. He's been in 3 offenses. He played under. He wasn't under Monken in Baltimore. It was Greg Roman in Baltimore. He played under 2 offensive coordinators in Arizona. So this is like his 4th OC. So he's been around the block. So he knows what receiver coaches and offensive coordinators want out of route tree running. And that's probably been one of his strengths coming into the league, is he runs good routes. He knows how to get open. It's just he hasn't necessarily had the quarterback play to match his speed. And Lamar would miss him on deep throws and underthrow him, or he was traded to Arizona to play with Kyler. Then Kyler got hurt, so they never really got a chance to go together. This is honestly the best situation he's been in offensively since Oklahoma?
Probably. And now he's in a group where he's not just the only guy out there on the field, too, at his position.
3, so you're never going to be double teamed ever here in this offense. So
the only hesitation I have is we say that, but he was targeted 146 times. That when Baltimore 1 year and only got 1,000 yards. He got 1,008, bro. Like, come on.
No, I mean, and that's my thing. Like, if he's given the ball, Hollywood can make plays. I'd much rather him throw him the ball to MVS.
No, I'm with you. I'm just trying.
You think maybe he's not as consistent as you'd like to see?
That's
Yeah.
part of the reason I didn't like him. The myth of him not being an offense as well. He was still the guy in that offense that he was outside of Mark Andrews. I know, but like still, like 100. If you're getting 146 targets, it doesn't really matter if you're a pass or
And
run
wasn't that
offense.
just his rookie season, or was that also year 2?
That was like
I
his
didn't pull
third
that
year.
back up.
That was like
I
his
think it was
third
like
year.
second.
That's
Or
why
Yeah,
third.
I want to go back to his progression. Yeah, but he has a couple more years in the league, so maybe mentally there, he's fundamentally mentally he's more sound, and
Right.
now he's gonna. I know it's another offseason question, but Chiefs typically are one of the more disciplined teams in the league. Didn't quite see all that last year, especially at wide receiver. But if he's more mature and he's got guys around him that are going to be disciplined, you would think a lot of that's going to come into play. Where
As
a
long as
guy
he's
like
healthy,
Kadarius
I think it's
Toney
enough,
has
right?
all that talent, but has
Exactly.
never mentally
Upgrade.
been there at the
Yeah.
level of discipline to put the talent and the field tape together at the same time. But yeah, love the signing. He was probably one of my top 3 candidates. Again, I didn't think he was as likely like you guys said, because I thought he'd be way more expensive. But a super team friendly deal, still gives him a lot of space. So let's get into that now. We still got $6 million to play with. We got the draft coming up. We got Snead potentially on the move. So there's $20 million to play with. Still need an offensive tackle. At least one, if not 2, to give you some insurance there and some comfort. Backup wide receivers, backup running back, maybe another linebacker, another DN. So there's still a lot of moves to be made. Who are some other guys sitting out there on the free agency at any position that you guys like and think would be a good, easy deal to add, and whether it's now or later in the summer? I personally think we're not going to see much else the next few weeks unless the Chiefs are real heavy on Mike Williams and his market's not that high as far as financially. But I guess let's go there first. Mike Williams gets cut by the Chargers. The AFC West is just unloading talent left and right because they can't afford anybody anymore because all of their GMs don't know how to manipulate the cap that well, apparently. Chargers elect to keep Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and have the most expensive defense in football. That's also the most injury prone. So Mike Williams gets cut. Keenan Allen gone. Justin Herbert's got to be sitting here going, what the heck, guys? Who am I throwing to? I got Gus Edwards. Woohoo! No more Austin Eckler. But what do you guys think about Mike Williams? Chris and I were talking about this just before we hopped on. I think he's got a very wide range of market, from high dollar potential still to teams are too scared about the injury, so they lowball him. But thoughts on Mike Williams? I think from a fit standpoint, we'd all love him. He's been a Chiefs torture last couple of years at that big size, big down the field threat, big third down target, a guy you can just throw the ball to and not worry about. But what do you guys think about his fit and what his market could look like? And should we even be considering him as another option?
The only way that I think that is if it's cheap, like if it's if it's a lot like the Hollywood Brown, if you can get him on a 1 year for 5 to 7 mil, which feels really low, and it's incentive, I would go for it straight away, and it moves what you can do in the draft. But I think he's big enough. He is explosive enough when he's on the field that I think there's going to be other teams that are willing to take a bigger chance on him. I'm not sure how realistic that is, but yeah, if Mike signs a 1 year, $5 to $7 million deal here in Kansas City, I would take that 1,000%. And then you can take left tackle in the draft and not even worry about receiver early.
Yeah. No, I would love to sign Mike, mainly because he gives us that aspect we've never had, a big body receiver who can just throw the ball up to. I'm just not as excited about it because I don't like signing injury riddled players. I'm not trying to deal with another guy. Oh, my knee hurts, my back hurts. He was magically healthy when he played us every year for years to come.
Every time he was questionable. Nope, he shows up on the field, 7 catches, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Every time. So no, I think the biggest move we were going to make for free agency probably was the Hollywood deal. I think any other move we make is probably going to be after the draft. I don't really see any other moves coming. Like, I don't hate Mike Williams, but coming off of ACL, he's 30 now, or no, even if he's close to 30, I'm not excited about signing guys who've been injured. And I love Mike Williams. Like, if he didn't have the ACL, I would sign him in a heartbeat. I wouldn't care. But a back injury and a bad knee, and not to say he couldn't get healthy and play for us, he would have an impact. But it's just, if I'm assigning money, I'd rather sign to a guy who's going to be available, because I think Hollywood can do all the things you want for a third option. And then you bring in that rookie, like Chris said. I think as long as you have 2 guys who can run routes and who can just consistently play and get open, I think obviously Pat has shown as long as you can just run to the spot, I'll get you the ball. I just need somebody to catch it. And Hollywood's obviously an upgrade from what we had last year. So, and I think the rookies that we've all mentioned that coming into this draft this year is the deepest receiver class I've seen probably since 2014. I think there's no reason to really go reach for another veteran receiver. You got one in Hollywood. Obviously, Justin Watson's still there. Rashid's coming into his own. Obviously, you have guys like Nico Remigio, Sky Moore, and KT are kind of like your 5, 6, 7 practice squad. Guys are fighting for those back end spots, but just go get a rookie, bring him in with those guys. I think that'll be a good enough group, honestly. And we added Irv Smith as well, another passing threat option from Cincinnati. So I think those are probably the biggest moves we're going to make. So I wouldn't suspect any other move until after the draft. But yeah, I don't hate Mike Williams. I just would much rather sign a rookie and guys that can do the exact same things like Keon Coleman. But I'm not trying to be a truther. Just thinking he would help this offense out a lot, and he'd be cheap.
I would love that.
So
Physical receiver too.
You do the same things Michael will do, and you have him for 4 years. So, and you
Hey, wide receiver 2 still on this team. He's just way down the depth chart. That's my guy Justin Ross that I'm still hoping pulls into something because he's got the talent. But anyway, yeah, I think you're correct there. I mean, there's still so many wide receivers left in the free agency market too that there's just no reason to jump on something unless everyone's saying, hey, Mike Williams' injury is scaring teams off, that you can sneak in there and throw $5 million, $10 million with incentives. Okay, sure. If you want to take a flyer on that, I'd be okay with it. But other guys out there, like I really like Hunter Renfrow. So why not have 2 Hunter Renfrows in Kansas City, baseball and football? Why not go get both? He got cut. Still, he's that good kind of in-between role that you might not need him for a lot, but he can go get you 7, 8 catches in the middle of the field and just provide another receiver that defense has to look at. Obviously, Odell's out there, and everyone still wants him in a Chiefs uniform, but it's got to be for like $2 million, not the 3 for $49 that he thinks he's still worth. Allen Robinson, Tyler Boyd, Michael Gallup just got cut. Michael Thomas is going to get cut, another injury guy, but he's made his money, so he could be cheap. DJ Chark, Paris Campbell, Josh Reynolds, another one I really, really like. I think he'd be a good 3rd, 4th receiver. He's just always been consistent. Heck, I know we talked about this earlier in the season, not the right locker room fit, but a Chase Claypool. They could still bring a guy like Richie James back. There's just so many random receivers still out there. Even heck, Byron Pringle on a bring him back, knows the offense. So yeah, I'm okay. KJ Osborne, that's another one. I could go all day on these free agent receivers. There's just so many. But yeah, I think it's now you're in a position now to where you don't have to worry about getting another wide receiver right now. You got Hollywood Brown, you got Rashid Rice, who did way better than I think any of us would have hoped for. I mean, we never see a rookie wide receiver really put up numbers outside of him and Tyreek. So yeah, you don't have to stress as much on the receiver side. You can sit back, wait, see what the market does with some of these guys that are left over. Go get 1 or 2 guys in the draft, whether it's higher or lower, or even wait till later in the summer and add another veteran receiver late. Cedric Wilson's another one I kind of like. Could be another punt return guy. They've got their guys down on the depth chart now. The Remigio, what was that guy last year? Marset Smith. Dontrell Washington? Montrell Washington.
Yeah.
Could bring him back, some of those guys to push. Yeah, still plenty to do there. But offensive tackles in need, potentially backup running back. How about any other offensive weapons you guys like? I would be all for a flyer on J.K. Dobbins if he's cheap. I think he'd be another interesting gadget type player in this offense, good size. Don't really want to see Clyde back, but we do need to see some sort of 1-2 punch with Pacheco.
What's up with the Clyde disrespect?
He's like McCole Hardman to me. We've seen him be great. We've seen him be bad. Let's
you're being mean, bro. That's crazy.
Give me something new.
Goodbye.
Yeah, give me something new.
You guys are some freaking
Thank you. Next.
Respect 2-5, bro. No,
Thank you.
I love Clyde,
Next.
man. I mean, if he's cheap, there's
I could still see him being back as your 3rd option. I don't see him being the RB2.
Yeah, like any of these guys we mentioned are like after the draft, like, hey, you want to come back for a 1-year deal, veteran minimum? Yeah, type deal. Like, absolutely.
Cordero Patterson.
That was mine.
That's mine.
He's old.
Okay. Whoa.
He is grandpa age for a running back, but
I'm cool with CP.
We haven't even
returns, and he does punt returns. So
yeah,
I'm cool with CP.
I know he only had 60 touches last year because of all the running backs that
he is old, but I would love it.
He's only, in 2021 and 22, he averaged over 1,000 yards receiving and rushing.
All pro return.
And like 7 to 8 touchdowns those 2 years. So he's only 1 year removed from that kind of production. Like,
I love CP. And he can play running back. He's played receiver his whole life. He's played everything like you could do. You could literally put him anywhere in the field. He's an athlete. It makes sense. That makes complete sense.
And he's going to be cheap because of his age. And if he's too old, like, who cares? Like, okay, we have.
Yeah, you're not asking him to go out there and play more than maybe 15 snaps at most, if that.
He could lock in your punt returner, kick returner, and 3rd down running back all in one position. Like one player could do everything.
That's who I want.
I was
I'm with
shocked
it.
he
I
did
like
not
Cheese.
get moved at the deadline last year. There was no reason Atlanta needed to keep him. They were not using him. I kept telling myself too, it's like, all right, let's just throw them a 6th-round pick, 7th-round pick, something to get him over here. Because I thought he would have been with some of the Pacheco injury and the frustration we were having with Clyde. Now we know, looking back, Clyde actually finished the season decent,
Yeah,
not
he
great,
did well.
but decent. But I thought Patterson would have been a good mix. Yeah, there's a ton here. Heck, it's not going to happen because the Chiefs don't usually go back this way. But Kareem Hunt still out there. I like Deontay Foreman, another hard-running, bigger guy.
On the third down. Is there any third down? Who's the third down back?
Damian
Akers is
Harris.
out there.
Damian, he's hurt. I don't know.
Cam Akers. Actually, the one I really love. I think
Cam
he's
Akers.
always been
I don't
underrated.
hate him.
Latavius Murray.
He's just
Good,
old
but
at this point.
Yeah,
though.
he's old too.
We have downhill. I need a guy that can catch the ball.
Yeah,
that's why I love CP.
JK, Cam, and Cordero are the 3 I'm looking at.
Is JK healthy? He
I don't
tore the
know.
knee again.
I think he's been cleared, but I don't think he's one that's going to get a lot of work over the summer. So I think it'll be very slow easing him back.
Because it was game 1 that he got hurt, so he's had.
Yeah,
it was in the
last 2 years.
Wasn't it preseason still?
No, it was.
It was like game 1 first drive, right?
Week 1, crazy.
Yeah.
Cam
Akers, Boston Scott, Alexander Madison. He's probably going to get a little bit more than what the Chiefs would pay. Who else is on here? Trey Sermon, Chase Edmonds didn't do great in Tampa Bay.
I don't hate Chase Edmonds. He can catch the ball. He's a very good third down.
He was just so far. I thought when Tampa Bay brought him over, I was confused by that because they already had 3 guys ahead of him that warranted playing time. But yeah, Chase. I mean, he's still under 28.
I like Chase.
Could be.
Whenever I hear Trey Sermon,
I want Naheem Hines. I'm so sad he got.
I know that was my one.
Naheem was perfect returner and third down. God damn.
Whenever I hear Trey Sermon, all I think of is Gus Johnson in like the semifinals when Sermon broke like a 50-yard run. Gus Johnson just said, "Sermon, Sermon." He just kept saying his name as he's running down the field, and that's what I will always have stuck in my head when I see.
Hey, we could go bring Zeke in here.
Goal line, baby.
Goal line back. Emergency center.
I got the running back room fixed. Just take Blake Watson. Just take Cody Schrader in the 6. We'll be fine.
Yeah, there's a ton of. Yeah, that's another one. Like, there's no reason for them to sign anybody now. There's going to be 15 guys to pick from going into the season, especially after the draft too.
We're really in a great position to add any depth, and we don't have to reach for anything before or after the draft, honestly.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, then let's just kind of shift gears back to the offensive line here for a moment. We'll kind of finish up there. Don't have a legit left tackle.
R.I.P. Allegretti.
Yeah, that was sad. Hey, good for him though. He's now going to have a chance to just be a full-time starter.
Him and Wiley can hang out in DC together.
Right. They are good friends here, so
they can wear their rings around DC. Hey, you guys want to?
Yeah, Washington Commanders. No more Bieniemy, but now they're becoming Chiefs East Coast.
Or the Saints.
Or the Saints, yeah.
Either one.
The Saints.
But quick thing on the Washington Commanders. Shout out former Kansas Jayhawk Dorrance Armstrong. 3-year, $45 million deal to be on their D-line. Super pumped for him. He's another guy that I'm always one that's the first thing I do on Madden is trade for him to be on the Chiefs, even though we don't need him necessarily. But just shout out to a KU football player getting $45 million a year. Love to see that. Super excited for him. Hope he has a big season.
That's fire.
One I want to ask you guys on the offensive line, Jonah Williams got picked up by the Cardinals. He was one that Chris and I talked about a couple weeks ago as a possibility if he wasn't crazy expensive. He's obviously gone now. There's not a lot of great names out there in free agency for offensive tackle. There's some guys. Nothing that really excites you, but what are some thoughts you guys have on addressing this position? I feels like the draft is the most likely scenario at this point, considering the other positions we filled. But being there at 32, you might not get the best pick of tackle. But what are your guys' thoughts, or what would you do heading into this offseason at that left tackle position?
The Chiefs don't seem stressed about it, so I'm not stressed about it. Is kind of where I'm at, and I've seen no one else talk about this. I don't necessarily know if there's data that supports it, but my big thing has been recently with the way Pat moves in the pocket, the old thing of your left tackle might be the second most position on the football field goes out the window. It is not that true when you have all these mobile quarterbacks. Sure, when Brady and Manning and those statues are back there,
the pocket passers,
huge. Your left tackle has to be a dog. But with Patrick, since the tackles can get beat. It's as long as there's no push up the middle.
Yeah, guard.
And the Chiefs have locked that up. So I'm not saying they need a bum at left tackle. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm saying that the need, the priority that we've been thrown at us our whole lives does not apply to this Chiefs team because of how good Mahomes is escaping. They've got Tooney, they've got Creed, and they've got Trey. They're fine. Penalties assigned. Juan played well down the stretch. You've got 4 positions you feel fairly good about. That you can put Morris. You can try to bring Donovan Smith back. You can put maybe a first-round rookie if the board falls that way there, and I will be okay with it. I don't think they need to go really spend money on a left tackle.
Yeah,
I agree. If it ain't Donovan, I was gonna take a flyer on Tyron Smith. That would have been a good for a 1-year deal if that was available. Bakhtiari's not a bad name. Jonah Jones, the kid out of Texans, not a bad guy that can play left tackle as well. So there's some options out there, but yeah, there's really no need to reach because there's some good tackles that could fall to us at 32. I like Kingsley out of BYU. Obviously, I like Guyton out of Tennessee, and Morgan out of Arizona. I've been hearing his name slip a little bit too. So there's like 3-4 tackles I could see us getting at 32 if we don't decide to move up. Obviously, the dream scenario would be to move up and go get a guy like Latham out of Bama or somebody that's like a legitimate starter day one. You don't have to ever worry about it for the next 4 or 5 years. So, but I like Keegan said, I don't think there's no reason to reach at left tackle. If we brought Donovan back, I'm not mad about it. Like Chris said, if we get 4 out of 5 who's legit, you believe it, or 3 out of 5, however you feel about Juwan, I'll take it. If we ran it back with the same group, I think we'll be just fine, honestly.
Yeah, you throw Wanye in there with a full off season to work and develop, bring another mid-round pick in there, get 3 guys competing for it. Heck, he didn't play a lot, but I always loved Prince.
Yeah, Prince Ortega. Yep.
I thought he was fun. There's a couple other guys on here. One I wouldn't mind just because he's been relatively consistent. He'd probably cost $5 to $7 million. Is Trenton Brown from New England? Again, a guy that's been. I mean, we've seen offensive line guys come out of New England are always very sound and disciplined for the most part. Obviously, Joe Tooney, future Hall of Famer that the Chiefs could have drafted, by the way. I was going back through drafts the other day, and Joe Tooney went like 3 picks after some random guy we drafted in the 5th round that isn't in the league anymore. Anyway, side note. But yeah, Trenton Brown there. Andre Dillard, still somewhat younger offensive tackle from Tennessee. Again, didn't play great, but you can still work with. Donovan Smith, he was probably the most likely to come back. A guy that I've been hit and miss on, but he looked decent at times in Denver was Cam Fleming, a guy that's been able to look somewhat athletic. Isaiah Wynn, another one, that kind of was a draft bust, but has bounced around enough that he just hasn't been in a consistent group. We know we've got one of the best offensive line coaches in the league in Andy Heck. So I'm like you guys, I'm not too worried. The most worried we've ever been was that Super Bowl a couple years ago where there was just nothing. They were on skates. There was nothing you could do. You just had to look away and hope that Mahomes would do something magical. But yeah, I'm comfortable going into the year, not fully confident that position's filled out because we got a lot of time to figure that out. We've seen plenty of times where the Chiefs have done random 5-man lines and it's just worked. Even when Allegretti's out of position, Tooney's out of position. Yeah, TJ, I know you said this all last season. Hey, if they're not worried about it, I'm not worried about it. You said that, I think, almost every episode when we were sitting here about something they were doing wrong. Hey, well, the Chiefs don't seem to be worried about it, so until they come out and say they're worried, I'm not going to worry. Yes, I'm good there. Any other positions, guys, you want to talk about, throw out there? We'll talk some more draft stuff later. I don't want to get into that now. There's way too much to dive into there. But I guess last thing here, let's finish up with likelihood. As of this morning on a Saturday, March 16th, it is like a 50-50 split of Snead deal is done with Indianapolis. Snead deal is nowhere close with Indianapolis. Likelihood that by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, there's a Snead move.
Probably 50%.
I'm going higher because it sounds like the Chiefs, the compensation has been decided. Like the teams aren't complaining about the Chiefs asking. It's the contract. So like I'm going to say 70% because if the Chiefs have a deal in place with the culture teams and they're asking for fair price, then it's just getting the deal done, which I think is a higher chance of getting worked out. So I'm going to say pretty high. He gets moved next week.
It does feel like one of those where we say this all the time in sports, where there's smoke, there's typically a fire. Once you give a guy permission to request a trade, it's very unlikely that they're back. Now, Lamar Jackson had permission last year. Nobody wanted to give him the contract that he wanted, so he was back in Baltimore for a slightly lesser contract. Still a really, really good contract. But yeah, it seems like he is probably out the door. Indianapolis was not actually one of my top 3 teams at the time. I think now with the way kind of free agency shifted, there's familiarity there with Chris Ballard, a good team that has always prided themselves on having a solid defense. It does feel likely. So I guess if that's the case, he does move. That frees up another 19 million. Chiefs are sitting here about 24 million heading into the draft. Off the top of my head, what you probably need 8 to 12 million, give or take, for the draft guys, for your rookies. Any other, like, because that's still a decent chunk of cap space. Any other kind of weird oddball moves we're not thinking about that because they have cap space the Chiefs could go do, whether it's making a trade for a guy that's already under contract?
They don't need to.
Yeah,
like
they don't need to move no money, honestly.
Like that's the thing, is like, I know that we're so stuck in Madden mode to where, when
I got something, I got to do it. Got to go get it.
The off season, you got to make these moves and this and this. And the Chiefs have shown time and time again that, like, hey, they won the Super Bowl. They're going to make the moves necessary. Every time they win the Super Bowl, the off season is typically a little quieter. Like what they do last year, they brought on Dwan Taylor day one. That was their big move. And then they did a bunch of little things, Tranquil worked and Edwards worked and Donovan Smith worked, and like they didn't make big splash plays. Well, this year they won the Super Bowl. They get Chris Jones back and then Hollywood, and now they're going to make their splash. The small things. Like the only real big time we saw them go after guys was after they lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, and after they lost the Super Bowl to the
major needs.
Yeah, those were the only times they really went out there and spent some money on Sammy and spent some money on Tooney and all these. So like, I think they realized that they had liked the team they have. They may not have a ton of picks, but they like the picks that they have right now in the draft, and they're going to be able to address everything they want.
And if need be, they could roll some of that cap space over into the following year too. I think that's one of the cool things about the NFL versus the NBA is it's not just, hey, it's this year's cap space. If any of that unused stuff that isn't being allocated towards something, or for issues that come up throughout the year. I mean, we all know a team needs to have 4 to 6 million, give or take, throughout the season in case of injury to go make a move. It gives them some leverage throughout this year, and anything unused they could roll over. Because after this season, then yes, Chris Jones has that big cap hit. Mahomes' cap hit continues to go up. You're going to have other guys on the team. You have to figure out what to do. So having that little bit of extra space and leverage will certainly help. But yeah, let's wrap up there. Probably A+ offseason so far, right?
Yeah.
Nothing to really complain about. There's still plenty of things they could do, but we're sitting here feeling pretty good around the NFL. I think. Oh, I did want to ask you guys this, and I said this to Chris earlier. Give me 1 or 2 of the weirdest free agency or off-season moves around the league so far that you're looking at going, what the heck is going on?
I still think the Titans giving Calvin that much money.
But not AJ Brown.
But yeah, like
that is a lot of money.
Is the most random move. Like, I get you want to have weapons for your young quarterback. Like, that's a trend you see a lot. But like that money's insane to give Calvin, who's 30 years old.
50 M's guaranteed is a lot.
Yeah,
of money.
50 M's guaranteed. Like, you're almost like, as much as you're trying to help Will Levis, you're almost also handicapping the rest of your team. So,
have you guys seen the fun conspiracies going around that before that signing, the Jaguars were the favorite at minus, and there were a couple teams like plus 200, plus 300, but then Tennessee was out here plus 1,800 to land Calvin Ridley, and then look where Calvin Ridley goes, and we know he's had the gambling issue.
Yeah.
Who did he give money to go make that bet? Yeah. That would be hilarious if that did come out at some point later. If they connect the dots somehow.
I mean, if he signed a lot lesser of a contract, I'd believe that. But dude had 50 M's guaranteed.
Yeah, that's still a lot of money. He doesn't need
He didn't need to bet on that. He didn't need to put any money down.
But I would love to see if DraftKings or FanDuel have some data they can throw out later. Like, hey, check out this person that put 100,000 on Tennessee, and you're like, damn. That's a lot of.
Count is that they're gonna look backtrack and see.
Yeah, they're gonna. That would just be funny. CJ, any other weird moves for you?
Nothing crazy. I think it's kind of funny how in the years past we've heard from like the Bengals, like this is like their era of the AFC after they beat us in like that stupid 2021 game. And Joe Mixon's gone. He signed a deal in Houston. Jonah Williams is gone. T. Higgins asked for a trade. I just think it's hilarious. The Bills have obviously been stripped their roster. They were cutting guys left and right, and they gave Curtis Samuel a nice deal. Gabe Davis gets a big contract in Jacksonville. So Probably nothing too crazy, but I just think it's funny how all these teams in the AFC West, like you said, have just been losing players. We're going to go into the season with no Austin Eckler, no Keenan Allen, no Mike Williams, no Josh Jacobs, no Russell Wilson. All these players are gone.
No Jerry Judy, not that he was
No Jerry
fantastic, but
Jeudy,
all the Chiefs killers. The only one that's really left out here is Max Crosby.
or Cortland Sutton, the only one that really give us real
Yeah,
issues. So
Sutton.
most of the AFC West players are gone. So I know people like hate us because they say we have an easy division, which we love because who doesn't love going 6-0 guaranteed every year? But going into a season where all of those players I just mentioned are gone, that's going to be very like exciting. I'm happy because we don't got to deal with them no more, but it's going to be very weird to not see a lot of those big names lined up on the other sideline for sure. And the AFC just scrambling and losing players left and right, trying to keep up with the Chiefs who've been cheap and spending, but yet they've been winning the most. So it's just best of both worlds. So a very relaxing offseason.
Say outside the Texans, it doesn't feel like anybody else in the offseason on the AFC side has really done, maybe Tennessee, but you still got a lot of questions with Will Levis. There's not really a team that's gone out there and really done enough so far to go, okay, they could throw their name in the circle.
The
Colts
Colts
made a couple moves.
Yeah, Cleveland's made a couple moves, and the Colts get Snead and AR.
That would be a big needle
and
shift.
AR come back healthy. That's
like the Colts are a team that no one's really talking about, but they brought back all their guys. They get
Mike Stagg, yep.
Like the AFC South could be very interesting this year.
Yeah,
that could be a dog division for sure.
Colts are a team I've got circled on my. They're not a threat yet, but like if AR comes and balls out, like
them and the Texans are definitely like the two more interesting teams.
Yeah, they're
not
teams,
the Ravens, not the Bengals. It's them two.
Yeah, they're the teams I've got circled right now as to watch.
Yeah.
The only other thing I was going to add that still, I think the biggest storyline or what's left ahead of the draft is what the heck the Chicago Bears do. The quarterback market is quickly drying up on trades for Justin Fields. We saw Atlanta go get Kirk Cousins and solidify there. Chris and I talked earlier that maybe Pittsburgh's still of interest. Obviously, they got rid of Kenny Pickett, which I thought was kind of a weird move for Philly in the sense of going after Kenny Pickett. I thought there'd be at least one other team out there that might have interest in bringing him to compete as a starter since he hasn't had that much runtime yet. But Pittsburgh could still use a quarterback. I mean, I don't think Tomlin feels that great going into the year with Russell Wilson as his main option. But that market's quickly drying up, which means the Bears, there's just no way they get the type of return that they were hoping for had they done this months ago. So big question there. Do they keep him? Do they move him? It's hard to turn down Caleb Williams when you have the top pick, but they could get a fat haul if they felt confident Justin Fields was their guy, which it doesn't. There's nothing they've said that makes them feel confident that Justin Fields is the guy. But if you had to predict where he goes, are there any teams outside of Pittsburgh that make any sense for him to go to? I still think Denver is one of those teams, but they've got a high enough pick that they could just go do that in the draft.
I still kind of like Las Vegas too. Like I like Gardner. I think Gardner gives you a solid floor.
Yeah.
But they've made enough interesting moves that where I think having another quarterback on that roster would make sense. So I don't mind. It feels like he's coming to the division if he doesn't go to Pittsburgh.
See, that's how I felt about Aaron Rodgers a couple years ago, and then it just seemed like, all right, Denver was for sure going to happen. Yeah. But yeah, I think the AFC West does feel likely. I look around the rest of the league. You know, Tampa just gave a bunch of money to Baker, so that's not going to happen. The Giants, if they didn't have Daniel Jones' fat contract sitting there, they'd be a team that needs a better quarterback and upgrade. You kind of feel bad for him too because he's got talent, he's got capability. He just needs to be in a system and a coach and a team that's built around. Like I actually think the Bears have done pretty decent this offseason at getting weapons. They just haven't really said, hey, Justin's going to be our guy. So, yeah, I kind of feel bad from there. There's been talk about Minnesota, but it feels like the way Minnesota with their trade yesterday, they're looking to jump into the top 6, top 7 of the draft to go get somebody. But, yeah, that'll be an interesting one to watch out. But all right, any other thoughts, guys?
Nope.
If I'm Justin, give me to Seattle, please.
That's the one I like. I know they got Geno and they just traded for Sam Howell, but why not have 3 guys compete?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Geno's getting old.
Hey, Geno, what he had a 2-year extension, so he's on the last year of his extension. Why not have Justin come in there and try to win the job? Or if not there, go send him to a classic move to get him for cheap would be New England to go get Justin. That would make.
Yeah, that's the other team that's been sitting. I think it'd be funny if Dallas tried to go out and get him and have him and Trey Lance compete for the future of the team because I feel like they're going to get out of that Dak Prescott contract at the end of next year, especially if they don't perform again. But yeah, cool. We'll wrap up there. Again, still a lot of off season to go. Plenty of draft stuff. CJ is active all the time. You may not see him quite as often on here, but he is always doing something NFL related. So follow him on Twitter at CGZ81. He's doing a lot of stuff over on the Kingdom Cast podcast. If you haven't checked them out, go ahead and check them out as well. Chris he's in baseball mode, so he's locked into the show, getting his routine down there. We got spring training. We just wrapped up an episode on spring training a couple days ago. We got MLB starting here in about 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks for that to get going. We got Royal stuff coming up. Those of you that are Jayhawk fans that are down and depressed about how the season has gone, we still got March Madness. Still got March Madness. So we'll have our big Selection Sunday show tomorrow. Either going to be live after Selection Sunday, or we'll record it later in the evening to kind of talk about that. Obviously, we got our big bracket challenge, which you can see there on the bottom. That is the main thing I want to talk about as we wrap up here. Again, it is free to join for any of you that would like to. The winner, it is one winner, $100 gift card to Rally House to go buy whatever team you root for. Their nice new merch. We are also going to be doing weekly prize giveaways on all of our social media accounts. So go check us out there at KCSA Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Got all sorts of giveaways, from gift cards to signed autograph memorabilia to some kind of novelty items. We've got a sponsor that we're working on behind the scenes here on couple details, which we'll be hearing very soon, that they'll be throwing some stuff in. So a lot of great stuff there. Again, free to sign up. It's on ncaa.com. All of the links are everywhere on all of our accounts. It'll be posted in the description of this video, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the time. Again, $100 gift card to the winner of the bracket challenge. It is free to sign up and play, so go join it, share it with all your friends. Let's have some fun. We'll obviously be talking about KU's chances. Don't feel as great about them, but we'll dive into it, and we'll talk about the rest of March Madness as a whole. Teams you can maybe look at to bet on. Do you guys have any deep favorites for a title run to throw some money at?
I'm going to the Big 12 Championship today, so one of the teams that's playing in it was one of my favorites, Houston. Probably if I had to pick a team to win, it'd probably be either Houston's in the Final Four, North Carolina, UConn.
I like Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee is my sleeper. Not really a sleeper because that'll be a 1 seed, but Dalton Connect's incredible.
Yeah, no, Dalton Connect can score.
You need a guy. You need a guy in the NCAA tournament, and
but there's a lot of teams that have, like North Carolina. R.J. Davis can go get you 40 points.
Auburn's really good too.
They can make a run. Bruce Pearl has a deep squad. I watched them fully watch them play. They're long. They play hard. He has 10 guys he rotates, just like that team he had. When they played Texas Tech? That was 2018, 2017 when that year run. That was so very similar team. That'd be one of my, not a Cinderella team, but a non-favorite that I think could end up getting there and winning it all.
Creighton, Colorado are going to be fun. I don't know if they have enough firepower to win it, but Creighton, Colorado could.
They've got the guys.
They've got
to make
some
noise.
guys that can score. They got some guys that can.
Yeah, those are the two. Those are going to be what? Are they going to be 5, 6 seeds?
4 to 5, yeah.
Maybe a little higher. But
another good one too.
They're going to be those guys that are below the upper echelon that if they're sitting there on the Final Four, don't be too surprised.
Yeah.
My deep sleeper is Michigan State. They're going to be a 7, 8, 9 seed. Izzo is solid in March. He's got the upperclassmen. He's got guys that can score, good defensively. They do not look the part by any means. All season, they have not been that team. But it's March. Anything can happen. But yeah, March Madness is going to be a ton of fun. Can't wait to see how the brackets shake out and how KU gets screwed like they do every year, and how we'll be sitting here complaining as a KU fan. But then I'll also somehow optimistically talk myself into a run.
They got to play well to get
screwed out of Jack.
I know.
How you get played screwed? You don't play well.
I'll just know I'll look at that bracket and it goes, all right, that team is the team that's going to shoot 33s. That's the team that's going to out rebound them by 20. Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun tomorrow to complain about our bracket. I always complain about the bracket, but then every time after I complain, I look at it and go,
never mind.
If this happens, boom, KU's in the Final Four. I've only had one bracket in the last 15 years I've done that doesn't have KU in the Final Four, but this is probably a year I don't know how confident
the Michigan State year when they were the 3 seed, and was that Sharon's last game? I didn't have him going deep that.
Oh yeah, 2011.
Yeah, 11.
Oh, you mean Michigan or Michigan State?
Michigan State.
The Michigan year also pissed me off too. Stephen Trey Burke.
Trey Burke here.
Yeah.
Good game winner, Trey.
The only thing he's done in his career, that big time shot,
right?
Yeah, Denzel Valentine
hit hit that corner and one, or that elbow and one to sink this Jayhawks season that year. I remember that. I don't know why that's the one game that sticks in my head more than some of the
To
others.
me, it's Northwestern. Stupid Ali Farouk-Manish.
Dude, I went on NCAA 07 or whatever I had on my PS2 and beat Northern Iowa like 300-2 after that loss. I was like, 13 years old. I was so pissed off.
It's the only way to do it back then.
The only way to do it, yeah.
My year was the VCU year. That was always hilarious.
Oh,
Shaka. He was running through the house like, what the? They can't miss. I'm like, bro, they made like 53. Shaka's on the sideline going crazy. I'm like, bro, they couldn't miss, bro. They just couldn't miss. There's nothing you can do.
And I still hate Shaka Smart as a coach.
Just for that.
He's still annoying.
Miss,
Not even for his Texas time. Just for
yeah, really at Texas, he wasn't, other than his stupid haircut at Texas.
The little shag he was wearing.
Once he started doing the shag again. Yeah, he looked way better as a bald coach. But anyway, we've been super sidelined now, sidetracked off into a rabbit hole. March Madness coming up. Go check that out tomorrow. We got plenty of stuff coming over the next few weeks across football, baseball, basketball. Got a couple big time guests that I'm going to keep secret until it's officially official. But we got a big time football guest coming on here in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, a big time basketball guest. So a lot of fun stuff as we get into the off season of sports as we wrap up, because it'll be just baseball season at that point. So we'll still talk plenty of baseball for sure. Got a lot of cool ideas for that. But as far as the other two sports, it'll be off season roster talk. There'll be plenty of KU basketball talk about how we get this team better for next year. So stay tuned. Make sure you're following us if you're watching. If you're still here with us, hit that subscribe button there on the bottom of the screen. Go join the March Madness bracket. Check us out on all of our socials. You'll see me blasting all that for the next 2 or 3 days. Just make sure that you get in, get your bracket set before play starts. Well, I guess if you do the play-in version, starts Tuesday. It's not likely that a play-in team makes a deep run, but I have had brackets that are make or break because of that play-in game. So go check it out. That'll wrap things up here. Again, thanks for joining us, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.